Here is some information about the two items which we have not yet talked about in our presentation, the raw stock drawing and the inspection drawing. So let's take a look and see what those are. You've already made, I hope, your machining detail for the block housing. So now let's take a look and see where we find out what it's made out of. And so that's called a raw stock drawing. Now, some places don't use these. A lot of places don't use these. A lot of them just say what the material is. But I've worked in machine shops and design houses that do use these, as well as those that don't. So I'm going to show you how to do this. So the first thing is you want to be able to show what your material is that you're making it from. And you can see here that the 2 by 2 material, if I came back 2 inches and cut it with a saw, I would have my 2 by 2 by 2 raw material to make my part out of. So this is the raw material that I'm going to make it from. I'm going to bring this over to the saw. I'm going to cut it, and then I'm going to take it to the mill to put in my hole, and put in my hole from the bottom. Okay. Now, this length, I made that up. It's a very common stock length, 2 feet. 6 feet is common, 8 feet is common, 10 feet and 20 feet are common. Okay, I've also, in this case, not called out what the material is. Usually, you'll call out the material. Brass, bronze, aluminum, stainless steel, plastic, glass. Not in this case. Okay, but we're going to call it raw stock, and it's a bar. It's a DSGN 330. Give it a part number or a drawing number. And then just draw your part out. Say that it's 2 by 2 by 24-inch stock. And that should do it. Cool. And there it is, made by 2 by 2 by 24-inch bar. So that's how you do your raw stock drawing. Okay, what does your part get made out of? And it takes a little bit of knowledge. Okay, this is not the only thing it could be made out of, so you have to tell people what it'll be made out of. So the next one is our inspection drawing. Okay, and the inspection drawing is once the part is made and it's sitting there ready to be used, somewhere along the line you need to inspect it, especially those things that could be a problem. Now, it doesn't really matter how big the block is. I've got lots and lots of room. This could be so far off it wouldn't matter. And the size of the hole going through it, we've already talked that doesn't make much difference either. So we don't really need to inspect those. They just need to sort of be there. Okay? But this cap right here, the thread, that is important. And that can get messed up. And that can be a problem. And so we would say that we would want to inspect that before we send, say we made 100 of these and we send them over to assembly and they get going, and then there's 3 or 4 of them maybe that have messed up threads, and then the things you were screwing into them are messed up, and then you got to do something with them, and it's kind of a problem. So it's always better to catch problems ahead of time. So you inspect them. And an inspection drawing tells you what to do. So in this case, it's saying inspect this dimension. These parentheses right here mean that that's a reference and you don't have to inspect it. But it's there so you have kind of an idea how big the thing is. Okay? But this is what we want to inspect. And there's a 1/4 inch 18 NPT, 3 places. And I should have a gauge or something, an inspection tool. I really should call it the inspection tool also. But we'll get into that later. But we're going to inspect this 3 places. We know that there's 1 here, 1 here, and 1 on the bottom. And if I go back to my sheet about threads, it tells me that I should be able to put a thread in there hand tight about 0.21 inches. And so I'm going to tell somebody I want that to go in there 0.21 inches hand tight. And let me go ahead and change. And that's without any sealant or anything like that. And look, then I have to tell somebody how many of these parts am I going to do? And I just put down 100% of the parts. Now, if you go take courses in being an inspector, you'll find out that that's probably ridiculous. Okay, this is not something that goes bad really often, and if it does, it's not really expensive. But doing all that inspection would be expensive. So this is something that your manufacturing engineers look into and get done. And rarely would you see 100 parts. Usually you would say um, start of the run, middle of the run, end of the run, so that you know that nothing is broken and is going wrong in between those points. But there you go. There's an inspection drawing. And I'm just going to call it inspection drawing, block housing, 1-to-1, bum, bum, bum. And so there we go. That's your other kind of drawing. Pretty simple. You make it from the same model that you used before, or you can just draw it. I mean, I could probably draw this thing pretty fast as an isometric too. Okay? So there you go. Those are the last two items that you're going to need: raw stock drawing and inspection drawing.